Mr Chair. Mr Chair, coming back to the combined effect of the provisions in Part 1, which are where all the substantive changes are, I believe that the consequence of this legislation, the changes that are being made to the Employment Relations Act, will mean that we will have multiple labour markets where rights will be dependent on certain things. For highly skilled workers, they probably won't have the 90-day provision imposed because, you're not going to tell the heart surgeon moving into your area that they're going to have a 90-day trial period. It just isn't going to happen for those people. But for the many low or so-called unskilled people in the labour market, it will be a take-it-or-leave-it scenario. It will be automatic. It will be in employment agreements, and that will just be the reality. So that'll be a difference between those two labour markets, between those in unionised workplaces and those that are not unionised, because we heard clearly through the submission process that the reality will be in unionised workplaces these 90-day provisions will not generally apply. And I think that the reality is that some of the employers that submitted are probably not potentially that happy about it, but it won't apply in those certain circumstances. Between those that have experience and those that do not have experience or recent experience, we will see very different labour markets there. Those people coming back into work or who frequently move in and out of work, and we look here perhaps at women who have primary childcare responsibility coming in and out of the workplace potentially, will have 90 days of no rights, multiple occasions in their working life. For some people, they may only have it a few or once even. There will be big differences between the experience of men and women in the provisions of this legislation. And, for example, the Women's Studies Association went into some detail about why they believe that the provisions of this bill will disproportionately affect women. They noted that women are more likely to have broken employment patterns and change jobs more often. They also noted that it is a young female worker desperate for a job, arguing that that person has equal bargaining power with an employer in any business is actually just a nonsense, really. They talked about the fact that preventing access by women workers to their union by restricting access of unions to work sites will restrict the right of women union members to secure advice and support. And many women are more likely to be working in the types of industries that are not yet unionised. And so this will undermine their ability to improve their wages and conditions of employment if the access provisions are abused. They also went on to talk about the fact that women are probably going to be less likely to be able to do the bargaining around 90 days if in circumstances there is a choice about whether or not there is a 90-day so-called trial period. So other submitters have also noted that the effects of this legislation will be disproportionately affect some workers rather than others. The Human Rights Commission took on the issue of what they called constrained consent. Over the other side of the House, people seem to think a take-it-or-leave-it job offer is a choice. Well, the reality is that that is nonsense. And the Human Rights Commission said that the idea that the proposed legislation rests on contract and agreement and cannot be imposed on employees who do not agree to trial period is, and I quote, unrealistic, particularly at a time of high unemployment and job scarcity. They also went on to talk about the impact on women, on migrant workers. They looked at the Department of Labour evaluation around the 90 days and said that even though most employers knew a trial period must be mutually agreed, they generally did not directly seek employees' acceptance of a trial period, did not generally seek that acceptance. Rather, it was stated in the employment agreement with other terms and conditions. Thus, in practice, the job offer was conditional on them accepting the trial period. And they also noted the impact on employees of losing their job during that first 90 days, and without reason and without recourse. So it could be for completely unfair reasons. That's going to be allowable. Who will ever know? But the reality is that those people will then experience prejudice in seeking subsequent work. The Human Rights Commission made that point very strongly. So I think that we will have multiple labour markets, and I think that that is of great concern to me. I think that fairness says that there should be basic human rights that apply to all people in the labour market. I mentioned Caritas, the Catholic social... Mr Chair, I call...